Barbara, and she was saying like, "Oh, it was so great to see the kids and their smiling faces
Behind the mask.
behind the mask, and you can see it in the eyes when someone's smiling." 7:40. Let's go to the Zoom room now, where there was a release that came out from the office of Senator Joanne Brown. Good morning, Senator.
Hi, Chris. How are you? Good morning.
Doing pretty good. Let me just read a little bit from the book of Brown here. The office of Senator Joanne Brown, and this is relative to a story that we kind of broke here on the link. Convicted, and this is a press release, by the way. Convicted of official misconduct involving drugs, GovGuam won't be your next place of employment. And the release reads, in an effort to protect the security and trust of the government of Guam, Senator Joanne Brown has introduced legislation to prevent individuals who have pled guilty to or have been convicted of official misconduct from government employment. As it stands, the Attorney General of Guam opines that the hiring of individuals convicted of official misconduct is solely at the discretion of agency directors. The senator is quoted here as saying, an official misconduct conviction is serious. It means a government official knowingly abused their position to break the law. It's a brazen act that destroys public trust in government. Rewarding these individuals with another job in the government of Guam is a slap in the face to law-abiding citizens everywhere. It's obvious that we cannot trust certain public officials to properly discern right from wrong. It's time to lay down the law. Official misconduct will not be tolerated among GovGuam employees. If you were convicted of breaking the law, specifically a conviction of official misconduct, returning to GovGuam won't be an option. And you've introduced Bill 3736 that was introduced yesterday, barring anyone with an official misconduct conviction from employment anywhere within the government of Guam. So you won the introduce a bill to deal with this issue lottery. We're wondering which of the senators down there would be the first to pop out a bill, and it was you. And we'll just take it back to the beginning. The interview I had, Sabrina and I had with Port GM Roy Respicio. We had heard that Frankie Roslin had been hired at the port, but unfortunately we weren't able to confirm it until that morning. What was your reaction? And I'm guessing you already knew, but what was your reaction to Rory's comments about the hiring of Frankie Roslin?
Well, I think I and many other people in the community were highly disappointed that this was the kind of standard being set by the current GM at the port. I mean, publicly it was announced last week that he had sent a memo out to the employees, I guess essentially notifying them about the drug-free workplace requirement, because apparently there were employees there that are testing positive for drug use. Even though that's included in your personnel file when you're hired at the department, that notice is already provided. And then at one end to send that notice to the employees, and then at the other end to hire someone who, most recently was involved in a very notable case at Department of Corrections. I think we were all disappointed as a community to hear that we had our own law enforcement people up there that were helping facilitate drugs into the prison and, creating a situation that was not safe or healthy for the other inmates there. More importantly, not safe or healthy for our community. And when you have people that are supposed to be in these positions of responsibility, you have an expectation that they perform accordingly. And when they don't, there should be consequences to that. But in this particular case, due to the judgment of the current GM, he's allowed this sort of thing to happen. And I've said this before, Chris, and I'll say it again. His current GM has succeeded in reinfecting the port with individuals that have less than desirable reputations in terms of actions that they have taken against our people. And that should not be rewarded. That's not an acceptable standard. And while he's publicly said, this all went through the merit process, when you have someone who's already demonstrated their action and then put them in an environment where we should be aiming, the priority should be to minimize as much as possible individuals that could be in a situation or position to be involved in drugs again. I'd like to think, and there are people that, they make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. None of us are perfect, that go on to do really great things. But I don't think that should be at the Port Authority, where we're very concerned about drugs being moved into our community, even though the current GM seems to say that that's not really an issue, that the drugs aren't moving through the port.
Well, it's coming in, it's coming in somewhere.
I have a very contrary position to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I just couldn't even wrap my mind around it. I just feel like it's totally unjustifiable. So it was interesting to watch Rory. I mean, Rory's a cool customer, right? I mean, he can stand and look in the eye and answer questions, but he was a little stammering, a little bit stuttering, kind of moving back when we were asking him these questions. He got a little defensive. I made the comment that, he was hired as a program coordinator. So I said, what program is he coordinating? The drug program? And Rory clapped back, well, if he is, so be it. So there's this kind of like sassiness. And that's what's frustrating for me, Senator, is there should be more than one senator coming out and raising hell about this. Why aren't we seeing
Well,
more,
and I totally agree.
more
I
of your
totally agree
colleagues?
with you, Chris. I think the public expects the hard standard, and as I've mentioned before, I think every employee that works for the government of Guam, no matter how important you think your position may be, or think if you have the least important position in the government of Guam, we're all public servants, and there's an expectation that when the public is paying you to perform a service, that you're supposed to be responsible in doing that. And it just sets a bad example. I mean, just move aside the connection to the front office that has been publicly reported with regards to this particular individual. I mean, I don't know him. I mean, this situation could have happened in any government of Guam department or agency.
Well,
but it just doesn't set the standard
Senator,
for our community.
Just to be clear, the connection that she's talking about is that Mr. Frankie Rosalind is the boyfriend of the lieutenant governor's sister. And that's common knowledge. We've said this on this show many times before. That being said, I want to go back to what Rory had talked about with this whole process going through the merit system, and there was some kind of board. I feel like this board probably would see the writing on the wall and know that this guy's connected, that he's got to get the job. So when Rory says that, I mean, do you believe him, or what do you make of that? That he says, "Oh, it went through the process."
I don't think I don't think many other people believe that this is, to embrace the merit system and try to justify how someone that obviously was involved in a very notable case at DOC is being rewarded with a job at the Port Authority. Another job that supposedly was recently created, and to try to justify that this individual's got a real critical need at the port that needs to be performed. He's very good, as I've said, he lies with such ease. I wish I had that talent to do it with such ease. But it's not right at the end of the day. And we have a right as a community, and the government officials have a responsibility to ensure first and foremost the welfare of our people. Drugs are coming into Guam. The fact that the price of drugs have dropped, let's not kid ourselves. It's coming into the island. And this is something that's adversely affecting our families, the safety and well-being of our community, people's safety and well-being and how they live here and are adversely affected by this. It's not okay. And when you have a public official in such a responsible position, not acting responsibly and not ensuring that the best examples are being set, it's very hard at one end to tell your people, oh, we're anti-drug, and yet allow this sort of thing to flourish, and then bring someone of such a notable, I don't even know this individual, but bring someone of such a notable reputation into the port. You're sending a very conflicting message, and I don't think I buy it, and certainly I don't think the public buys it when they see these type of examples. And leadership here in this community, I mean, the governor, I don't even know what to say anymore, because when you see these things happening and you don't see anything being done about it at the highest levels of leadership in the island, that this is setting the standard of performance for this administration repeatedly. I mean, this is the scandal this week. What's the scandal next week or the week after? And then they'll just wait and let it pass, and next week it'll be forgotten. But I'm not of that position. I think we need to bring this to light. As I mentioned, this could have happened in any other department or agency. Unfortunately, it's happened at the port, where every effort should be made to ensure that the port is operating as effectively and efficiently and without this type of nonsense going on. We have a public expectation for that. And yet, the current GM and his judgment obviously has not demonstrated the best of judgment. I don't think there's any way you can possibly justify what action has been taken by hiring this individual and having them work at the port and set the wrong example for this community and be rewarded for offending the community in what used to be a responsible position and expectation of being up at the Department of Corrections. And look what example was set there by him and a number of others of public officials that were supposed to be serving the public interest.
I mean, it's not just the job, too. We've done the research, and Mr. Rosalind's company, Comfort Cuts, has many contracts with the government of Guam. I asked Lieutenant Governor about that last year, and his response was, Well, just because he's my brother-in-law doesn't mean that he can't have a business and compete for contracts, which I mean, on its face, it is what it is. I mean, anybody can compete for contracts. I just don't understand why we roll out the red carpet for people who have betrayed the public's trust and everyone just turns a blind eye to it. Well, almost everyone.
Chris, I'm totally with you there. I mean, I almost felt like getting out my Shindawa bush cutter. I should change my profession because I think I'd be making a lot more money going up cutting grass and having my own side contract while I have a full-time job at the port.
Did you?
It really does send the wrong message in our community, and I don't think it's acceptable. You know, you can ask other senators what their thoughts are on it. I hope they do the right thing by the people, which is what we all campaign and run for office and say we're supposed to do. And then, you know, on the side, special favors are happening to reward people for bad behavior. And that just isn't right. And there are thousands of people out in this community, especially after this pandemic, that have lost their jobs, that are more than qualified, that are law-abiding citizens, that are probably getting up this morning, going to work, sacrifice what they need to do to take care of their families. And they don't even get one chance. They don't even get one chance to be considered for a position like this at the Port Authority of Guam. And there's no way you're going to convince me or probably many other people in this community that this is all on the up and up, that there's no special connection or allowances to make this happen. Right now, the port is where the money is. And you've seen since this general manager has taken over the Port Authority, he has expended millions of dollars of public money paying people who have done some very, very bad things against our people and has set the wrong example. And the leadership in this administration has literally done nothing to address that concern and allows this general manager to continue in these very bad habits and very bad leadership direction that's being provided. And it's unfortunate. I think we have a right to expect better from our leadership than what we're seeing now.
Senator, just a couple more questions before we let you go. It's a crazy morning. Were you disappointed with the response from the Attorney General? I wasn't sure if he was, trying to justify the hiring or wash his hands of it. Did you expect maybe something a little stronger from his office?
Well, I can't either in terms of what the Attorney General's position was, but I think for all of us in the community, certainly now that I'm in the position again of being a lawmaker, this is unacceptable. I don't think we should, through public resources, public money, when individuals have already violated in such an obvious way the public trust, continue to benefit from public resources. As I mentioned, there's so many people in our community that never even get a first chance, not even a first chance to get to the starting line. Why should anybody else who's demonstrated their lack of care and responsibility for their duties to the people be given a second or third chance, especially in these type of positions where the objective should be to minimize drug influence at the port rather than going the other way and using this as an example to everybody else at the port. No matter what the current GM says to his people down there, to not use drugs, not bring drugs into the compound, not abuse drugs, this action totally kills that message, not only to the port employees, and there are a lot of good people down there, but to the rest of this community that we should be setting a higher standard for.
What is the remedy? I mean, I'm just thinking in a perfect world, if I was Governor Liu, I mean, you stick your finger in the air on this, it stinks all around. You know what I mean? If I was Governor Liu, I would just call for him to be removed from that position. Or, is that the remedy here, or are we just going to have to suck it and he's going to keep the job?
I think that's a question. I think that's a question you need to ask the governor.
What would you like to see done?
I haven't had a formal conversation with her since her third month in office, when I brought to her the concerns of what I was already seeing happening at the Port Authority. She said one thing and other things happened. So I can't answer for that. I think that's a question you need to pose to her and her administration as to why this is the kind of thing that's going on. And these are the type of examples that are being set in leadership of people that she's put in office. I think the public has a right to ask that. I mean, we have an election next year. Let the people decide if this is the kind of leadership that's acceptable. And it's unfortunate. I've worked with Governor Liu for quite a number of years in the Guam legislature, and I'm highly, highly, highly disappointed when I see these type of actions. And I can't even say that, they're looking the other way. They're just letting it happen. This has become the standard. It is what it is phrase is going around. And I'm just so disappointed. I mean, I wouldn't be here in public office right now having run, especially because of what I've seen happen in our community. I mean, this is where my family lives. This is where our family lives. And when I see our people being ripped off, when our resources are being taken and used and abused, attack me all you want, as these detractors have done to try to discredit me. I don't have a personal issue with Rory Respicio. I mean, it's not like he's my friend and I lost a friendship here. He's a former colleague of mine. I have a number of former colleagues. But when you see these continued actions that are contrary against the public good, against the standard of our community and the expectation we should have of our officials, then by all means, because I can speak out, I'm going to speak out. And certainly as a legislator, I'm going to do what I can to ensure that these type of things don't happen again in the government of Guam, because our people deserve better. It's their government, it's their resources. They have a right when they're paying for our services to ensure that our people that are performing in public service give them the best service possible. And when they abuse that opportunity, they shouldn't be given a second or third chance to come back and abuse our people again. It's just not right. We set other standards for elected officials and other types of crimes of family violence, sexual abuse, and things of that nature. Then by all means, with regards to this type of action, we should set a standard that this is not acceptable in our government and it's not acceptable in our community.
Well, thank you for your words this morning, Senator.
Well, it's always good to talk to you, Chris. I wish we were talking on a more enjoyable subject, but
not me. It's entertaining. It's. I mean, you're right. I don't understand. I really feel like there should be some kind of statement coming out of Adelup about this, but their communication strategy appears to be on issues like this: stick our head in the sand and wait till it all blows over. But yeah, I mean, really. Like, I think so many people out there, I mean, to play devil's advocate, what Rory said is like, oh, I don't want to continue to hold someone's past over their head. But I mean, the guy isn't even done with probation yet. And I just feel like, I mean, he was hired early on last year.
What does that tell everybody? And it's not that you don't encourage rehabilitation and individuals that have had challenges in the past to not do better, but to allow them in this particular circumstance. I mean, if you're right about a contract on the side, I mean, it just sends the wrong message, and its proximity to Adelup is so close that it just doesn't look right. It doesn't smell right. It just isn't right at the end of the day.
Thank you, Senator.
All right, Chris, you take care. You have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Senator Joanne Brown closing that loophole for people to get hired with official misconduct convictions here. Kind of a no-brainer. I mean, really, I think no matter what side of the aisle you are on, I think it's just kind of common sense, especially during a pandemic when so many are out of work. I don't get why we're giving front-of-the-line privileges to people who have proven that they can't be trusted by the people of Guam. Again, it's a common sense no-brainer. 757, we're KUAM-FM in Agotnia, Guam. Okay, so